Hello again. In today's video, I will provide you with information about situations we may encounter during the assembly and disassembly stages of drone systems. First of all, say that the drone system you see here has experienced an accident during flight. We will determine the cause of the problem and what happened during the accident. First, we will disassemble the arms to access the drone's body and identify faults in mechanical or electronic parts. It's important to use appropriate materials during disassembly. First, we will perform the disassembly of the arms so that we can access the body of our drone. It's important to use the appropriate materials during the disassembly process. First, we will try to remove all the screws using the Allen wrench set. You can also use a screwdriver here. Of course, you need to pay attention to which type of screws you have. After selecting the appropriate Allen wrench, we begin the process of removing the screws from the body. The main goal here is to separate the arms of our drones from the body in order to check the health of the internal electronic components or mechanical equipment. You need to be careful with your cables, also with your antennas, while doing this. Especially in systems where we are working with cables, you need to be careful not to cut any of your electronic components, wires, or antennas while cutting the cable ties. You can also do this by hand and by eye. Be careful not to lose your screws during the disassembly. After we have removed all the screws, we carefully separate the arms from the body. Make sure that you do not damage any mechanical parts during the separation process. Also, make sure to prevent the cables from being pulled. And don't forget to disassemble the cables. Carefully detach the cables from the main body and then remove the signal cables from the flight control board. This way, when we remove the signal cables going to our ESCs from the end of the flight control board, we won't damage any mechanical or electronic components. To check our parts, we are separating the ESCs from the arms. While doing this, we carefully cut our plastic ties with the help of side cutters. We are removing the wires from the ESCs that go to the motor. While doing this, make sure there are no exposed connectors and also disconnect the power. After separating the ESCs from the body, the next step is to detach the arm from the motor. Since we will be checking your motors and ESCs separately, you need to complete all the disassemblies and also ensure that all mechanical parts are checked. A particularly loose screw can be a significant cause of your flight problems. During the disassembly phase, you need to pay attention to the screws you have removed on the motor side. In this way, you will not interfere with the internal windings of the motor. This way, you can complete the disassembly process without damaging the motor. After removing our motors and ESCs, we go to the inspection section to check them separately. Our next step will be to detach the landing gear to leave the body behind. While separating your landing gear, you can check for any faults in the mechanical parts. During the disassembly of your landing gear, you should carefully remove the screws that connect the landing gear to the body. Be careful of the electronic components inside the body where the landing gear is attached while removing these screws. At the same time, your landing gear, while separating from the body, you can also check that no screws are loose and that there are no mechanical faults. Drone systems are mechanically different systems. However, since the assembly equipment and materials used are generally similar, you can use the same materials for the assembly and disassembly of different equipment. You can apply the same methods and techniques. We've reached the end of today's video. In the next stages, we will learn about the fault analysis of the mechanical parts of drone systems.